Well, excitement in the office today because Steve Bunce, Ronan Mullen's hero on the show. In your feed very soon. Ronan, hi.
Hi, Joe.
Just, of course, not your hero, but he's a big man in the world of boxing.
Yeah, he certainly is. And, you know, that podcast he did with Mike Costello, they're obviously, Mike Costello's ended up in TV broadcasting of late, but there was a nice stretch there where just the ultimate yin and yang, you know what I mean? Like two broadcasters batting at the top of their game, but in very different ways, you know? You don't always get that dynamic, and no, he's just an excellent performer on air, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, he's in your podcast feed very shortly. He's written a book. He's been covering boxing since 1984, and on the 40th anniversary, he's decided to pick out 80 fights. Not the best fights, not ranking of sorts, but just fights he was at, and something to say about them or some insight to give. Couple of bits and bobs. We have Conan here as well. Conan, hello.
Hi, Joe.
You've recovered from our GA panel yesterday.
Recovered? Just basking in an hour-long GA chat?
Yeah. It wasn't a GA panel. It was not the Monday panel. Completely hijacked.
Who would have to be your guest for us to say Joe's hero is in studio today?
Jeez, I don't know. I'll think about that. I'll come back to you tomorrow. Yeah. Let me think about that. I'm thinking about it now. Well, I don't know. Do you have one to mind?
Sean Murray Lockhart.
Right, okay.
We'll come back to it at the end of this podcast. How about that?
Well, maybe. A few bits and bobs for people then. Things going on in the world. So the back page of the Irish Independent. What's happening here? Connacht, the counties are facing shortfall if pre-season decisions are not reversed. So Connacht want those pre-season matches to be reconvened. Leo Cullen's going to sign a 2-year Leinster contract extension. Rory O'Connor. And Virgil van Dijk, says Chris Bascombe, is talking with Liverpool. There's an impasse. His contract is up at the end of next summer. Summer coming. That's a real this summer, next summer, this week, next week. Yeah. Summer 2025. So he said after the game on Sunday, the right people are talking to each other. So we'll see how all that shakes out. Maurice Brosnan, Irish Examiner. The Football Review Committee are putting together a little report about the 4 matches at the weekend. And it would seem, Morris's information is that the 4 points for a goal rule is going to be scrapped. And also, the 45-metre kick being worth 2 points is going to be scrapped. It will revert to just 1 point. You will still get 2 points if you kick out of hand in open play, but not from a 45. That was kind of in tandem with what we said yesterday.
Do you think they were listening?
I didn't. Well, listen, it'd be presumptuous to say that. But I think there was a feeling, and I didn't think it weirdly before the 4 matches, but suddenly it just felt like it watching them that 4 points for a goal seems excessive.
It does, although I'm offended if they were listening, because it sort of goes completely against what I was saying, where I was saying, we're valuing the long range point a bit too much. Now they're going to value it even more by making it 2 points and 3 points for the goal.
Close to a goal now.
Yeah. Now it's easier to add up. Obviously we'll still have the uniformity in scorelines like you were talking about between hurling and football. And there's that bit, like Aidan Forker was talking about, Rian O'Neill was asking him during the game, what's the score? He couldn't work it out because it's new and there's so much happening. There's 2 points going over, there's 4 points going in, so something to neaten that up would be welcome.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know, will we get a look at the report or the main findings of it? But obviously Congress is coming swiftly around the corner, so they're coming with their analysis of the 4 games post haste, and that seems to be the big news out of it, that the 4 points for a goal will go. Matt Doherty's interview is something else to mention. He was on the bench for Wolves' game against Manchester City, the late winner for City, of course, and he was speaking to David Snade afterwards, who flew over, I think really just with the express aim of talking to Doherty, which is great, given left out of the squad. Curious to get his thoughts on it all. So David watches him do 30 minutes of intense running, as the subs have to do, which even Doherty said afterwards, that is not fun. And then he said, I don't normally do interviews because I tell the truth too much. I didn't plan to do one. I would have said no to you, but I only heard the Irish accent. So I guess, look, you get in the flight, you get over there, you get your reward. He said of the 30-minute running session for the subs, that's disgusting. Well, I'm doing it every week now, so I'm probably used to it. You just have to do it. So David puts to him the Hal Grimson dropping him from the squad situation, which Hal Grimson framed as, I'm just looking at other options. And Doherty says, well, that's exactly what he said to me, as in he's looking at other options. I haven't been playing that much, so I don't really have an argument with things at the moment. But obviously I should be in the squad. Even if I'm not playing or not going to play, I should still obviously be in there, said Matt Doherty. But yeah, I'm patient. I wasn't happy, but I got to spend time with my kids. I do expect to be in the next squad.
It's a beautiful sliced backhand into Hallgrimsson's court, isn't it? Like, the pressure's on you, mate. Like, if you leave me out this time, it's not...
What pressure? Like, I just hope Hallgrimsson performs some sort of root canal surgery here now and just...
No,
just
but Hallgrimsson framed the last omission as, oh, we're trying out some new players. If he leaves him out the next time, it's pointed. I'm done with you.
Well, you could make an argument that the player he was left out for was Ebiseli.
Yeah. And if Seamus Coleman is fit in the medium term, he's going to be back in as well.
Squads are smaller now than they were a decade ago for these international matches across the board. UEFA have clamped down on the sizes of them. So being left out of the squad is not what it was 10 years ago. I mean, it's a tight 23, 24. So anyway, it goes on. That Doherty, obviously I should be in the squad. And then David talks to him about the fact that after the England game, he was on the bench for the Greece game. And Andrew Omobamidele was playing at right back. So Matt Doherty said of Hallgrimsson around that dropping, he thought it looked like in his eyes that he thought I felt disrespected in the last camp. I said to him, yeah, I felt disrespected in the last camp because in the second game against Greece, he was playing a centre-back, this is Omobamidele, at right back ahead of me. That's not possible. So we spoke about it and we're fine, so I should see them in November. I'm not sure how well he comes across in this.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Look, there's a degree of football speak where he goes, that's not possible. That's a shortened down version of, I really thought that was, the wrong thing to do. That shouldn't be happening. But there's kind of arrogance about it.
There's complete arrogance. He's talking about being disrespected. Like, that's so disrespectful to somebody who's a really good player as well. And, Dara O'Shea then steps into that position and he's played there loads as well. Centre back playing right back is very common nowadays, actually, as well. If, anybody was keeping up to date with football, it's not like Cyrus Christie's playing centre midfield like Martin O'Neill did for a few games and said we had no other options there. Like, this is somebody just... This is a manager picking 3 centre backs to allow the left back to go further up the pitch. Like, again, a lot of systems do, but like the fact that Matt Doherty comes on in that match that he's talking about then and does what he does is just more of a smack in the face. And now you wonder, is that deeper? Like, is he not trying to leg there because he is pissed off? Which would make me think even less. And I just think this is an awful interview. Matt Doherty hasn't played in over a month. He says it himself there. He hasn't started a league game since August, first 2 games, and that's been it. So It's not like he's been playing regularly. And it's not like we're short of options. O'Shea's a good option. Omobamidele is definitely a good option. So is Coleman, and so is our boy, like you say, Ebiseli.
Like, you don't want to draw too many conclusions from an interview, and maybe, he's just been running his guts out for 30 minutes and now he's sitting in a dugout doing a quick 10-minute chat. But I suppose what you kind of would have liked to hear from Matt Doherty, not even as a PR exercise, but just the mindset you'd be looking for from a player. What I would like to hear would be things like, I've really had a bad couple of years. I am working my backside off to get better. That mistake against Greece was unacceptable. It's not going to happen again. I totally understand. If the manager wants to look at other players, he can, but I'm going to make myself undroppable. If he thought Omobamidele was better, I'm going to fight for my place and I'm just going to do everything I can. Not things like, obviously, I should be in the squad, even if I'm not playing. And Omobamidele playing instead of me at right back, that's not possible. That kind of, and it is an entitled attitude, does not suggest he's going to turn things around day to day. If he's not actually examining the situation in a slightly more clear-eyed way, then I'm not sure he's going to be able to address what is, in effect, a career ebbing away. I was just surprised that his attitude was so kind of entitled is the word, He goes on and he talks about being away from the international setup during the last window and how he went and spent time with his partner and his 2 children, and that was all nice, and his sisters live in London, he saw them. Just being with them was so good, I've never experienced it before. It felt like it went fast, but of course you start to think about the future. I'm 32, nearly 33. Jesus, I feel like I'm a young 32. I haven't played a huge amount in the last couple of years. Obviously, I had that 6-month holiday in Spain. And David Snade writes, the last line was delivered with a smile, Doherty reflecting on his 6 months with Atletico Madrid. And look, that's fine. The guy should absolutely maintain a sense of humour. Again, a slightly more a driven competitor mightn't find it at all funny, you know, but he's, you know, what's really interesting, he said, David writes, is that Diego Simeone spoke to him twice during that time, the week he signed and the week he left. He played 16 minutes with 17 games as a substitute. And apparently the other players had said to Doherty, normally with new players, Simeone doesn't speak to them for the first 6 months, but I was only there for 6 months. So, I mean, it was odd, but he felt he couldn't turn them down when the offer came up. Finland and England in November, and Matt Doherty feels obviously he should be in the squad. But, you know, again, Ebicelli was in almost as your direct replacement. Should you? Is that how you're seeing things? I don't know.
Yeah, but like he's in the autumn of his career, and I don't know if it's the little social media echo chamber that I read, but he seems to draw the ire of Irish football fans a lot. And he's probably thinking, I've been playing at the top level for the best part of a decade. And he's looking around him in those squads thinking, and they're blaming me. You know what I mean?
But he's been very, 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 very poor.
No, he has.
2 to 3 years now for Ireland.
No, he has.
Not just the club career, for Ireland.
You could argue he's never really performed
I know he was
at his very, very best for Ireland.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, but he's never played an Irish international match on a level of his peak performance at club level, has he?
I feel there have been numerous days where he was like almost our most likely route to scoring a goal and was, you know, those underlapping runs. And yeah, I think there was a period where, yeah, Matt Doherty's excellent, and actually Seamus Coleman now has a problem, and you know, a real one. And then he was doing a job, you know, on a left back away to Portugal, and was, you know, very, very good. So no, I think the performance has dropped.
Yeah. But see, I like him as a player, and I remember when he was first being, like, the Seamus Coleman thing was becoming a conundrum. It was like, what do we do here? Do we drop him and bring Doherty in? And eventually the fudge was that Doherty played right-hand side of midfield. It didn't work. And everyone's like, okay, that experiment's over. And then it was back to one or the other. And then like accommodations were made with back fives and all that kind of thing. But it just feels like he never really settled in the Irish setup. And you're speaking about his hunger or lack thereof at the moment. But to establish the career trajectory that he did, he needed a remarkable amount of hunger to work his way from where he was to where he ended up, like at Tottenham. And, you know, it kind of the whole thing, I remember us having conversations back then. He was coming from Wolves, where he was flourishing as in a back five as a wing back and scoring goals, like, and getting on the end of moves. Then he went to Tottenham, and Jose Mourinho had him playing as an orthodox fullback, and it's just not the same position. So he was almost set up to fail in a way. And yeah, but it hasn't gone since that Spurs move was for big money. It hasn't transpired as we would have hoped.
No, it hasn't. Now, Jose playing him as an orthodox fullback, that obviously was an adjustment for him, and it didn't go terribly well. And there were certainly moments where he was very high up the pitch, like a wing back, and there was a period of adjustment. But then there were other games later on when that period of adjustment should have well and truly been over, and there were very average mistakes at times. And I distinctly remember one evening Jose Mourinho, like, absolutely publicly on the touchline pinpointing Doherty for one of the goals. And it was the kind of thing, the kind of play which Doherty has become, in my mind, a little bit synonymous with of late, where it was just all a bit lackadaisical and slow feet and everything's an effort. And you have to remember as well, short-lived as it may have been, Nuno Espirito Santo then came into Spurs. And again, wing-backs were back in vogue, and Doherty couldn't force his way back in under Santo. So
Conte as well.
And Conte. So actually, there have now been a lot of managers that have seen him day in, day out, that kind of think, no. Mm-hmm. So I think it's on him. So this business of obviously I should be in the squad, don't say that. That's not how this is, you know. We'll see. It's a 10-minute interview. He's just been sprinting up and down a pitch. He hasn't maybe given too much thought to it, and he's chatting away to David Sneyd. Great interview, by the way, David. But yeah, you wonder maybe if he'd had a bit more time to think about it, would he have framed things differently? Couple of other things to get to. An email in from Rian. We were talking about Robert Lewandowski yesterday, who's become third on the all-time list of scorers in the big 5 leagues in Europe all time. He's behind Messi and Ronaldo. I had not remembered this. When you were discussing Lewandowski and him not going to the Premier League despite being on the face of it a very good fit for the league, it reminds me of how he was one medical away from that happening in 2010, linked to story below. I did not know this. So in 2010, Blackburn Rovers are a mid-table side in the Premier League. They're managed by Big Sam.
Oh yeah.
Big Sam. Their strikers are Jason Roberts and Franco Di Santo. David Dunn is a free scoring midfielder. This is real Barclays, man. So they identify this kid playing for Poznan who's seriously good, and they have a chat with him. He's pretty much up for it. All systems go. Come on over for more detailed terms, discussions, and a medical. And the Icelandic volcanic ash cloud strikes.
Oh, no.
That was a very sincere oh no.
Oh.
And all flights are cancelled. And around this time, Lewandowski has a friend at Dortmund who says, Robert, I wouldn't rule out coming over to Germany. And conversations started happening. And there's a couple of quotes in the piece from those at Blackburn at the time who still remembered as the one that got away. So just missed out, courtesy of a volcanic ash cloud on Lewandowski in your Premier League fantasy football team.
Absolutely. I have a live Aston Villa fact checker here, but I know a story off the top of my head here where Martin O'Neill was choosing between
Falcao.
Emile Heskey and Falcao.
I was just thinking the same story.
And he went for Heskey.
Not so much the one that got away, but the one that he let go away and just brought Heskey instead.
At least Big Sam had identified the correct player.
Big Sam identified a lot of good players.
Yeah. And Big Sam obviously did a few really good jobs, obviously notably Bolton and Blackburn as well. But would you throw West Ham in there? But this could have propelled him even further. Into
could have got the England job.
He could have got the England job
again.
After the fact of it.
One of the great phrases I think in modern life and media, which gives you no choice but to click, is leaked WhatsApp messages.
Oh.
So it seemed this will not go anywhere. This will not go anywhere because politically it's just too difficult.
I thought you meant the WhatsApp message. It's
No.
Stephen Ward said that before.
But the Telegraph have the exclusive, and now they're saying, listen, government may look at the purchase of Newcastle. So basically the source of the leaked messages is Amanda Staveley, it would seem, who very much brokered that deal on behalf of the Saudis with Mike Ashley. And you'll remember at the time, in accordance with Premier League rules, absolutely no state involvement with the purchase of Newcastle. It's very separate. PIF, it's not us. Because the Premier League had initially blocked the sale of Newcastle to a consortium led by the Saudi PIF over concerns that the club would, in reality, be controlled by the Saudi state and Mohammed bin Salman. But, quote, legally binding assurances, end quote, were given that this was not the case. And now a bunch of Amanda Staveley WhatsApp messages have been leaked and, they're just full of references to the Crown Prince. So it's things like Staveley warning the sellers that the Crown Prince is losing patience.
That could be anybody.
His Excellency is not happy.
She refers to him a lot as capital H, capital E.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Or at another point, when the deal is hitting a bit of trouble, she said that the governor of the PIF is, quote, trying to convince the Crown Prince not to pull out. Now, again, look, he's not nothing to do with this, but they seem to be involving him an awful lot. It's just like, no one is surprised by this, of course. This is just one of the great examples of everybody knows what's really going on here, and yet we're just kind of ploughing on anyway for various reasons. Like, it's around this time that Boris Johnson literally flies over to Saudi Arabia and says, if you could increase the oil production right now, that would just be amazing for us. So as if they're going, we're going to stand in the way of that move or do anything about it now. I mean, I think most people would just generally accept that Newcastle is run by the Saudi state. That's not even a borderline controversial take.
It seems the contention has moved on to they're not allowed to spend any bloody money.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point in having the richest owners in the world when we can't? But yeah.
What would Burnley think of that? The team who got relegated in 2022 when Newcastle were rooted to the bottom along with Norwich, I think it was. They hadn't won the first 11 games. They had 5 points on the board after 11 matches. Eddie Howe comes in. They take Chris Wood in that January transfer window. Everyone said, they're just doing that to stay up. They're going to screw Burnley over and get some goals themselves. And I was just thinking about the time that West Ham had Tevez and Mascherano.
Oh, yeah.
And, well, actually, they didn't have him. Some agent bestowed the honour to West Ham that you can have him. And obviously, Sheffield United ended up winning that court case then to get reparations back because they got relegated because Carlos Tevez scored a goal in the last game of the season against United to keep themselves up. And this was a ongoing court battle for years because Sheffield United got relegated because of basically an illegal player playing on according to the Premier League rules.
Yeah.
And now, you have a a club being run by somebody who shouldn't be running it according to the Premier League rules, and a team loses their star striker and they get relegated. I don't know. Just there's an opportunity there for Scott Parker.
Maybe. So that's the big Telegraph scoop at the moment. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere quite clearly. Alexander Zinchenko has a book out.
27 years of age.
Yeah. I don't know much about the book. It's called Believe. Obviously, part of it, certainly based on the stuff which is appearing in the papers, is charting his own experiences. Maybe there's a Ukraine war aspect. I don't know, perhaps. But he's two things kind of have made the news. Manchester City. So it seems, not the most generous situation from his point of view. He joined City from Russian club Ufa in 2016. And the deal was you're on youth wages until you break into the first team. So he writes, the City lawyer said, look, this is an academy player contract, right? But as soon as you make your first official game for City, we'll extend your contract with the real money that we pay full professionals, not this academy player deal. So trust us. And Zinchenko says, of course I said yes, follow the dream. Do you know when my next contract came? The one that put me on full professional money? It came after I'd played 43 games in the Premier League and had won 2 Premier League titles, playing on an academy contract, academy money. It's odd. And on Pep, he talks about it one day where the intensity of Pep is getting a lot. He misplays a pass and Pep does his thing. Out loud, I said, Mister, like I just did one wrong pass, His reaction was incredible, Zinchenko writes in the book. Oh, okay, sorry, Mister. So he does this with everyone.
I'm so sorry.
Oh my God, I thought it was just this thing he did with journalists. So he goes full passive aggressive. Oh, okay, sorry, Mr. Zinchenko, sorry. Okay, guys, thank you. Everyone inside. And he went in and he walked to the changing room. Training was over, all because I talked back. I knew I was in trouble.
Great detective work there from Zinchenko.
Pep.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and it is a bit mad. It's cancelling a whole training session.
Sorry,
and behaving like that.
No.
But once you buy into the cult of Pep, you sort of accept all that stuff, and you accept that stuff as scary almost. Well, I don't want to see that side of Pep, and that's an effective way. Nobody's ever going to talk back to him again. Now, you can only do it when you have the stature that he has. If you're a manager who's on weak enough ground and you try to cancel training, like, you're all right, mate. We're going to keep training. You can go back into the changing room, but Pep cancelling training, just like that's never probably happened again. People speaking back to him.
Yeah, because there was the Vincent Kompany video from training a month or two ago, where he's full on rage mode, hair dry treatment times 10 on the training ground, and player tries to speak back to him, and Kompany goes berserk. In fact, we'll dig it out and we'll play it in right now by the magic of podcasting.
Joey, don't fucking test me! Do not fucking test me! I'm enough for the fucking moaning! Enough for the fucking moaning! Play fucking football! What gives you the fucking right to moan about everything? Fucking play! How many times do I have to tell you? Stop fucking moaning! What, you got something you want to communicate to the team? You want to communicate something? You're a big boy? No, you're a big boy. You want to take it? I just said, can we finish that task? No, you're moaning about everything. What have I moaned about today? Body language is fucking shit. I'm not accepting it. Play! Fucking hell, man. It's fucking life or death. Fucking play! We know that. I fucking know that.
So I mean that is full on.
Yeah, where do you stand on that? That caused a bit of a divide. What people thought of it.
I don't know.
So performative. Oh my God.
On Kompany's part.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay. Oh my God, yes.
Maybe I'm just a bit more old school.
Sure, he knew he was being filmed. He was wearing a lapel mic.
But they always tell you forget the cameras are there.
He seemed sincerely angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, over seemingly nothing. Your man was even like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? It's like, this happens, this is as if he thinks he's managing the Harlem Globetrotters or something. It's Burnley, it's not going to be the most efficient training session.
Well, it's never going to be the Harlem Globetrotters if he accepts that.
Do you think he's pulling that with Thomas Muller at Bayern right now?
I think his voice is loud enough he could get away with it.
I don't know, would he pull that with the Bayern boys?
I sort of like the you're right. Your man didn't do much,
No.
but his
He just
body
defended
language.
himself a
But
little bit.
Yeah, his body language probably wasn't good, and you've had that at sessions, and it's good for somebody to nip it in the bud before he even says anything back to company.
In some ways, there is something kind of cancerous about that body language thing. If you pick up on it,
100%, yeah.
and he's like nailing it. Like there's a degree of you know what you're doing, and I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But was he where the cameras were there also?
Yes.
Hard to say no. Would you rather someone do that to you or Pep come over and go, oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Everybody in. You've ruined it for everyone.
Do you know?
I think I take my shit. I think
Company?
I take my company beating.
Yeah.
No, I feel like I couldn't even have a conversation with Guardiola without second guessing everything I said and he said back. I feel like he's so disingenuous or something, inauthentic. I don't even know if he realizes he's doing it sometimes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Quick last point before we go. Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers, we may do a piece on him in the next week or 2 or 3, is a top 5 quarterback of the modern age, we can kind of comfortably say, 40 years of age now. So the interesting stuff with Rodgers, I guess, is that up until a couple of years ago, he was an uncontroversial figure, give or take.
Yeah, relatively. The predominant conversations around him would have been, does he deserve to be in the same conversation as like Tom Brady, given he hasn't won the same amount of stuff? But
Okay, so
it was
that's not
very much a sporting,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? There was like debates around him, but it wasn't really about his off-field stuff.
And then during COVID, at one stage he was asked, was he vaccinated? And he said, I'm fully immunised. And then a couple of months later, he got COVID. And then, well, it all just seemed to kick off in a big way and big back and forth with Anthony Fauci. And you know, that was a heightened time, obviously, when people were talking about vaccinations. But it seems, according to Ian O'Connor, his biographer, and I don't want to necessarily lump somebody who doesn't want a vaccination into this conversation, but conspiracy theories at large are a thing. You know, in high school, he was obsessed with the JFK assassination. Again, not something we would have known when he was playing in the NFL. And complicated person, estranged from his family, goes on with Pat McAfee on ESPN every Tuesday and would hold court on all sorts, including around the vaccination time, a lot on immunology, you know. But even because his biographer was saying that up until all of this blew up, he was even considered socially aware. He had spoken up on behalf of Colin Kaepernick. After the Paris attacks in 2015, a fan at a game yelled out an anti-Muslim slur, and he actually rebuked that fan. And people, you know, really admired him for it. It was a great thing to do in that context. But subsequent to COVID and his newfound position as like conspiracy theorist at large, it just seems like he can't catch a break. And currently, he's got his coach fired from the Jets, and they've lost 4 in a row, and he's stinking the joint out, and it's all about him. And Ronan, you got us a clip here. We'll listen to it. This is Rex Ryan, the former Jets head coach. This is a little sample of what people are saying about Aaron Rodgers just now.
For me as a coach, why the hell you hire me? All right. Why? Because I'm going to create that culture. That team is more important than the freaking individual. That when the team wins, everybody wins. All right. It ain't about the name on the back. It's about the name on the front of the damn jersey. All right. Be proud to be a damn New York Jet. Right now, I don't see it. I'm proud to be Aaron Rodgers. How about be proud to be a freaking New York Jet? Where's the passion for it? And I think that starts from the top.
So he's gone full on Vincent Kompany there in punditry mode. Former coach, he's doing some punditry.
Yeah.
Everyone hates Aaron Rodgers. Is that where we are?
So that's maybe just to circle back to my other point there. It's kind of fitting because it has shifted now into the sporting domain. So unlike the mainstream sports channels, you wouldn't have seen so much talk about his wild theories and that kind of thing. That would have been on CNN and, you know, Fox. Whereas now it's his sporting performance and those other layers that you mentioned, which means he's drawing the ire of the mainstream sports media. And also he's in the most immersive and intrusive sports market in the world in New York. Like everything's a story and there's so much going on at that franchise. Like he claims he didn't get the coach fired explicitly, but he had a call with the owner the night before the coach was fired. So I think he can draw 2 and 2 together.
No, keep him.
And just like there was lots of the coach and Robert Saleh and Aaron Rodgers do their own press conferences every week. They were contradicting each other regularly in briefings. They weren't on the same page at all. Right. Aaron Rodgers missed the whole of last season. He played like a couple of snaps and ruptured his Achilles. So this was his first real season, and there was a kind of a holding pattern last year. and it just hasn't worked out at all. So there's a sense that he's like player manager. He's drafting his friends in. Devontae Adams, who's one of the preeminent wide receivers in the league, came to the Jets explicitly just to play with Aaron Rodgers, it feels like. So that kind of thing. It's just, there's a lot of intrigue around him for sporting matters and otherwise. There's a documentary coming out in December which has kind of chronicled his last year. The extent to which he has editorial control, we'll see when it comes out.
Oh, he's participated
but
in
it seems like a fly on the wall type situation. Okay. So I think it's kind of striking that a guy who was once considered like the rugged alternative to Aaron Rodgers, pulled himself up by his bootstraps and, gunslinger, real
the rugged alternative to Tom Brady.
Yeah, like Tom Brady seemed like a very polished, whereas Rodgers was more of a gunslinger, Brett Favre style, throw the ball at any angle kind of thing.
I'd like to have a beer with him.
Yeah, Brady was more methodical, that was always the thing, like that little juxtaposition. Now it's wild. He was being floated as Robert Kennedy Jr.'s presidential vice president nominee. It's a little bit bonkers. But yeah, hopefully we'll get into it again.
Yeah, let's do a piece on Rodgers in depth. Well, I thought his biographer in the Guardian piece I read, Ian O'Connor, seemed very good. So, not to do your job for you.
Yeah, it's good. I'll keep it in mind.
Okay.
I didn't explicitly tell him to do it.
Yeah. Are we done?
We're done.
Any other business? I don't think so. Steve Bunce is in your feed. Very, very good. Worth listening to, boxing fan or no. And by all means, email us, indosportpodcast@independent.ie. Somebody was on to me wondering when we're doing rugby this week. We are doing it on Thursday with Rory O'Connor and Ian Madigan. We figured left wing is very much out today. Today's Tuesday, isn't it? Out this evening. So listen to that this evening or tomorrow and then come hang out with us on Thursday for the rugby. Ireland squad has been announced tomorrow. So that's the crack. That's done. Indo Sport Podcast at independent.ie. Ronan, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Conan Doherty, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.